In the glittering heights of Manhattan, a young waitress makes a choice that shatters her world. One glance at a glowing phone screen reveals a billionaire's glamorous fiancé whispering lies, plotting betrayal, and weaving the perfect con. Should she stay silent and keep her job, or speak the truth and risk everything? That night, her courage costs her career. But the next morning, a mysterious knock at her door delivers a sleek black box, and inside it lies a card that changes her destiny forever. What secret power hides behind the billionaire's gift, and why was she chosen? The dining room at Aurelia shimmered like a jewelry box. Crystal chimed. Soft strings drifted above the thrum of Manhattan 60 floors below. Lena Torres moved through it all as if on invisible rails, a quiet current in a black uniform, refilling water, noting the early tilt of a wineglass, catching the micro frown that asked for a different vintage. She had learned to see what others missed. Years of studying brushstrokes in second-hand art books had made her observant. Years of bills on a formica table had made her careful. Section C was hers tonight. The corner held a pair that turned heads without noise. Alexander Ward wore money like some men wore cologne. Not new. Not loud. A bespoke navy jacket, a silvered calm, eyes that measured and listened. Old inheritance grown even older through shrewdness. He ran Ward Capital. He owned whole floors people only rented for their dreams. Across from him sat Vivian Hale, a sleek figure in emerald silk, her laugh tuned to the pitch that softened a room. She touched his sleeve. She glanced at the skyline. She looked every inch the woman a billionaire would choose to make an evening gleam. Lena greeted them with clean syllables and a steady tray. "Good evening, Mr. Ward." "Miss Hale. May I start you with your usual?" Alexander gave the small smile he reserved for staff who remembered. "Macallan 25, neat." Vivian asked for a Kir Royale, her red polish flashing as she smoothed the napkin across her lap. Lena walked the order to the bar with the calm of repetition, though the inside of her chest felt like a taut wire. The day had run on coffee and a single apple. The rent notice sliced the stack of mail like a white flag. Her mother's hospital balance sat in a crimson box on the website that tracked debt like a storm. She needed this job the way a diver needs air. When she returned with the drinks, Vivian's phone lay beside the bread plate, screen up, gold case catching the light. It buzzed. Vivian's eyes flicked down, softened into a grin, then she lifted her gaze to Alexander, a hand on his wrist, a murmur about the view. The phone was an inch from Lena's hand as she set the crystal flute on its coaster. She did not mean to look. The screen rose into her vision like a sign through fog. A contact named Dorian. The preview said enough to sour the wine list. Did the old man mention the Geneva transfer yet? Need to book Bali flights. Keep the Children's Art Foundation story ready. He will love it. Lena placed the flute without a ripple. Her face did not move. Inside, the old wire thrummed. Dorian. Not a brother. Not a colleague. The voice of a plan. Her eyes rose once, only for a breath. Alexander was studying Vivian the way a curator studies a masterpiece, searching for the truth inside the paint. Vivian leaned into that gaze as if she owned it. The night deepened through courses like chapters. Caviar on ice the color of winter dawn. Dover sole filleted tableside. Conversation drifting across philanthropy, a museum wing, a foundation whose name glowed with children and light. Alexander's voice warmed when he spoke of access and education. Vivian's hand floated to his cuff. Every gesture was choreographed, every smile placed with care. To most eyes it was romance. To Lena, the edges glittered too sharp. The lie was beautiful. It was also a weapon. Her manager prowled the perimeter, a hawk in a black suit. No disruptions. No drama. Aurelia sold perfection at a price, and perfection required silence. Lena had never broken that rule. Not once. She had learned as a child that silence could hold a house together. Yet the words on that screen would not release her. When the espresso arrived, Vivian slipped away to the powder room, perfume trailing like a ribbon. Alexander unfolded the bill with the same economy he brought to the markets. A black card rested on the leather folio, unassuming as stone. Lena stood at a respectful distance, waiting for the signal that closes an evening. He signed, pen moving with a patient finality. She stepped forward and felt the wire inside her go still. It did not snap. It resolved, like a note finding its chord. "Mr. Ward," she said, voice barely above the hush of the room. "I apologize for speaking out of turn. What I am about to say is not the custom here." Her palms were cool against the tray's rim. The skyline threw shards of light against the glass. Somewhere in the room, a spoon touched porcelain with a soft chime. He looked up. Not irritated. Not indulgent. Present. "Trust is the most expensive thing on this floor," she said. "More than the wine. More than the view. I saw something I could not ignore. It concerns the transfer you mentioned earlier and a foundation." Her throat tightened, but the words held. "I believe you are being deceived." Silence gathered between them, clean and heavy. The soft music seemed to step back. Alexander set the pen down. His eyes did not flicker to the room, or to the door where Vivian would reappear. They stayed on Lena, open and unreadable. The wire inside her surrendered. Whatever followed would follow. She angled the folio toward him to finish his copy, then drew a breath that reached the bottom of her lungs. "Mr. Ward." The moment after the words left her lips felt endless. Alexander Ward's gaze remained fixed on Lena Torres, calm yet waited like the pause before a verdict. The folio lay open between them, the black titanium card catching the chandelier's soft glow. Lena stood rooted, her voice gone, her body bracing for dismissal or worse. Then, like a bell breaking a spell, Vivian Hale's laughter floated back into the dining room. She swept across the carpet in her emerald gown, every step precise, every eye catching her radiance. She rested a hand on Alexander's shoulder, her smile a blade wrapped in silk. "Is everything all right, darling?" she asked sweetly, though her glance at Lena was sharp enough to cut. "Ms. Torres was just ensuring our service was satisfactory," Alexander replied, voice neutral, betraying nothing. He signed the bill, slid the folio back, and leaned into his chair as though nothing had passed. His expression gave no clue. No anger, no gratitude. Only a mask. Vivian's eyes narrowed for a fraction before she arranged her features into a picture of grace. "Oh, how diligent," she said, dripping venom under the varnish. "Though she does seem rather eager, doesn't she?" Lena swallowed, her pulse hammering. The wire she had chosen to cut now bound her tighter than ever. Before she could answer, the manager appeared. Marco Serrano had a predator's sense for disturbance. His polished shoes hardly made a sound as he arrived at the table. "Mr. Ward, Ms. Hale," he said smoothly, though his eyes darted between their faces and Lena's. "Is there a problem?" Vivian seized the moment, her tone honeyed with indignation. "Yes, Marco. This waitress has been dreadfully unprofessional. She intruded on our privacy, telling my fiancé absurd and malicious stories." She emphasized the word fiancé, savoring it as if to mark territory. The word struck Lena like a slap. Fiancé. So the plan was deeper than infidelity. A lifetime entangled with Alexander's fortune, sealed by vows, corrupted by lies. Marco's jaw tightened, his attention swinging to Lena. "Is that true?" His voice was low, hard, laced with fury. Lena's throat constricted. The truth waited at the edge of her tongue, yet Alexander's silence pressed against her like a wall. He did not deny. He did not confirm. He remained motionless, his face unreadable stone. "She was simply confirming your wine order, weren't you, Torres?" Marco pressed, every syllable a command. The room had shifted. Diners pretended not to listen, yet their ears tilted like flowers toward sunlight. Lena felt herself shrinking beneath the invisible weight of 100 glances. Her lips parted, but no defense came. She could not drag Alexander's name into open scandal, not with him sitting silent. She could not plead without proof, not when the predator across the table smirked like a queen who had won. Enough, Marco snapped, his tone sharp enough to slice through the tension. My office. Now. His hand gripped her arm, firm, brooking no resistance. Vivian's voice followed, sweet and cruel. Do see that she is dealt with, Marco. We wouldn't want Aurelia's reputation tarnished by gossip. Alexander said nothing. He stood, pulled out Vivian's chair with perfect courtesy, and guided her toward the exit. Heads turned as they passed. Vivian cast Lena a look over her shoulder, a flash of venomous triumph beneath the mask of sympathy. The walk to the manager's office was a walk of shame. Lena's steps were heavy, her breath shallow. The murmur of the restaurant dimmed as though even sound itself recoiled. The door shut behind them, cutting off the world outside. Marco's mask of professionalism dropped. His face darkened, voice trembling with suppressed rage. Are you insane? He spat. Do you know who that was? Alexander Ward owns half this block. His account alone keeps Aurelia's doors open. And you dare insult his fiancée to his face. Lena lifted her chin, though her hands trembled. She's not what she pretends. I saw the messages. It's a con, Marco. She's playing him. I don't care if she's sacrificing goats at the table. Marco roared, slamming his hand against the desk. You are a waitress. You see nothing. You say nothing. That is your job. The word struck harder than she expected. Invisible. Silent. A shadow. She had lived that role for years, and for what? Debt and despair. Marco's final words cut the air like a knife. You're fired. Pack your things. Your paycheck will be mailed. The world blurred around her as she stumbled to the locker room. Colleagues avoided her eyes, whispers trailing in her wake. She peeled off her uniform, folded it with trembling hands, and stuffed it into her tote. Her reflection in the locker's dented metal door showed a pale, broken ghost. As she turned to leave, her hand brushed the folio Marco had shoved at her in his haste. Inside lay the receipt. The bill was astronomical, a figure that made her chest tighten. The tip line held a 0. Cold, deliberate. But just below, written in a small, almost illegible scrawl, were 2 words. Thank you. Lena stared at them, her mind reeling. Was it sarcasm? A cruel mockery? Or had he heard her? Had he believed? She left Aurelia with no answers, only those words burning in her pocket. Out in the Manhattan night, the city felt harsher, the air colder. Her life as she knew it had collapsed. And yet, beneath the rubble of loss, a single spark of something new flickered. The billionaire had written thank you. Rain traced crooked paths down the grimy window of Lena Torres's apartment. The East Village building groaned with age, its pipes clanking like restless ghosts. Inside, the small space was crowded with the remnants of her life, unpaid bills spread across the kitchen table, a pile of laundry that smelled faintly of mildew, and the lingering ache of humiliation. Sleep had been impossible. Every time she closed her eyes, the scene at Aurelia replayed in torturous clarity, Vivian Hale's venomous smirk, Marco Serrano's rage, and Alexander Ward's silence. Over and over, the 2 words on the receipt haunted her, thank you. Thank you for what? For ruining her life. For pointing out the obvious and being discarded like trash. It made no sense. Her phone buzzed with an alert from a job board. Experienced fine dining server required. She laughed bitterly. Her reputation at Aurelia was ash. Who would take her after being fired in disgrace? She pressed the laptop lid closed and pressed her palms against her eyes until stars bloomed in the darkness. A knock shattered the silence. Sharp. Authoritative. Not the polite tap of a neighbor. Not the rattle of the mailman. 3 raps, deliberate, like the sound of a verdict. Her heart stumbled. No one ever knocked on her door. She moved slowly, her bare feet silent against the worn linoleum. Through the peephole, a distorted figure appeared, tall, severe, dressed in a charcoal suit. The faint coil of an earpiece curled along his jaw. He looked out of place in the dim, peeling hallway, like a bodyguard who had taken the wrong turn. "Miss Torres?" His voice was low, clipped, perfectly controlled. She hesitated, her fingers tightening on the locks. "Who's asking?" "My name is Arthur Chen. I have a delivery for you from my employer." "I didn't order anything." His expression did not change. "I was instructed to place this in your hands only. And to confirm that you received it." Her stomach clenched as she undid the locks one by one. The door creaked open a sliver, then wider. Chen held a box out to her, sleek, matte black, heavy as stone. No label. No return address. No clue. She reached for it, her fingers brushing the cool surface. The weight seemed to radiate meaning. "Who sent this?" "My instructions are complete, Ms. Torres." Chen bowed his head slightly. Then he turned and walked down the hallway, his polished shoes making no sound against the floor. He did not look back. Lena shut the door, locked it again, and leaned against the wood. The box sat on her coffee table like a totem, pulling at her. She circled it once, twice, as though expecting it to hiss. Finally, she sat and slid the lid free. Inside, nestled in black foam, lay 2 objects. The first was a phone, glossy and untouched, a single unfamiliar app icon glowing faintly on its screen. The second was a card. Heavy. Black. Made of titanium that felt colder than steel. Her name was engraved across it in silver letters, Lena Torres. She froze. Her breath shuddered out. She had heard of it whispered among servers and bartenders, the black card. An invitation-only relic, carried only by the wealthiest of the wealthy. It was a myth, a legend. And it had her name etched on it. At the bottom of the box, folded neatly, lay a cardstock note. She lifted it with trembling hands. "Ms. Torres." The 0 on the tip line was for others to see. The words beneath were for you. "Your integrity is priceless. What you did last night required courage I have rarely witnessed. It confirmed suspicions I could not prove. You lost your job because of me. I will not allow your courage to be punished. This card is yours. It has no limit. Consider your debts erased. Consider your burdens lifted. But this is not charity. It is an invitation. I have a larger problem than an unfaithful fiancé. You have proven yourself observant, discreet, and brave. Qualities I need. Your first task is simple, acclimatize. Understand the world people like Vivian inhabit. Buy clothes. Walk into places you've never entered. Learn to see as they do. The phone enclosed is secure. It will be our only line of communication. Await my instructions. Your discretion is paramount. Welcome to the game. A.W. The note trembled in her hands. It felt absurd. Impossible. And yet the weight of the card was real, its etched letters undeniable. Her debts piled in the corner of her table like vultures. A hospital bill. Tuition. Rent overdue. Could one swipe really erase them? Her pulse raced. She flipped open her laptop, logged into her tuition portal, and entered the card number. The sum of $14,000 glared at her. Her hands shook as she typed in the details and pressed submit. The screen refreshed. Payment successful. Balance, 0. Her body collapsed into the chair, her breath hitching into a sob that was half terror, half euphoria. It was real. The chains she had carried for years were gone with one swipe. But so was her old life. The phone lit with a single new message. Good. Now your first lesson begins. Vivian Hale is shopping in Soho. Do not confront. Observe. Blend in. Report what you see. A car waits downstairs. Lena stared at the words. Her reflection in the cracked mirror caught her eye, hair tangled, t-shirt faded, exhaustion etched into every line of her face. She was no longer invisible. She was being invited into a world she barely understood. The game had begun. The Mercedes-Benz idled at the curb, black as ink, its surface shimmering with the sheen of drizzle. Lena Torres hesitated on the cracked pavement, clutching her tote bag to her chest. Her thrift store dress and scuffed shoes suddenly felt like a costume, flimsy and ill-suited for the stage she was about to step onto. The driver, tall and unsmiling, opened the rear door with a mechanical grace. "Miss Torres," he said simply, then stood back. His tone carried no question, only certainty that she would obey. Inside, the car smelled of polished leather and quiet power. The city blurred by as it glided south toward Soho. Lena stared at her reflection in the tinted glass. She looked the same, dark circles under her eyes, the faint crease of worry on her brow, but everything around her had shifted. In her pocket lay a card that erased chains of debt in seconds. On her lap rested a phone that tethered her to a billionaire she barely knew. The message replayed in her mind: observe. Blend in. Report. 20 minutes later, the car stopped a block from the Chanel boutique. The driver's voice was clipped, efficient. The vehicle will remain here. Return when you are finished. Her pulse pounded as she stepped onto Spring Street. The boutique loomed like a temple of luxury, black and white awning, spotless glass, the soft golden glow within. Lena's throat tightened. She didn't belong. Yet the note had been clear. Acclimatize. Learn to walk as they did. She pushed the glass door open. A soft chime greeted her, followed by the discreet smile of a sales associate with perfect posture. Bonjour, madam. Welcome to Chanel. May I assist you today? I'm just looking, Lena said, her voice betraying nerves. The woman's gaze skimmed over her simple dress, the cheap tote slung over her shoulder. A flicker of doubt, then a professional smile returned. Of course. And then Lena saw her. Vivian Hale, radiant in crimson, stood before a three-way mirror, a quilted Chanel bag draped over her arm. She laughed with her sales associate, her tinkling voice carrying across the quiet store. At her side stood a man, Dorian. Handsome, dark-haired, the same man from the photo on her phone. He balanced shopping bags from other luxury stores, his hand brushing the small of her back with an intimacy no brother would dare. Lena's stomach nodded. They weren't hiding. They weren't even careful. Their smirks, their shared whispers, were brazen. She forced herself to turn away, pretending to study sunglasses on a display. She lifted a pair, using the reflective lenses as a mirror. The angle was perfect, Vivian preened, holding the bag higher, while Dorian leaned close to murmur. Corbin felt guilty, Vivian said, her voice lilting, after that silly little waitress made a scene. He insisted I treat myself to recover from the trauma. Dorian smirked. He's a good man. He's a perfect mark, she corrected, lowering her voice. Did you confirm Zurich? The framework is ready. Once he transfers the seed money for the Children's Art Foundation, we liquidate and vanish within 12 hours. The words sliced through Lena like ice water. The fake foundation. The Geneva transfer. It wasn't just betrayal, it was theft on a scale she could barely comprehend. She had to act the part. She had to stay. The sales associate drifted toward her, eyes assessing, lips thinning as though ready to dismiss her. Panic flickered. If she was asked to leave now, she would fail before she even began. "I'd like to try this," Lena said suddenly, plucking a navy tweed jacket from the rack. "Of course, madam. This way." The fitting room was hushed, carpeted, perfumed faintly with leather and roses. The jacket slid across her shoulders like a second skin. She turned to the mirror and froze. The woman staring back looked different. Not a tired server, not a ghost in uniform. Someone sharper. Someone who might belong. When she stepped back out, she carried herself taller. She walked directly past Vivian, keeping her face turned just enough that her hair veiled her expression. At the register, she drew the black card from her bag. The effect was immediate. The cashier straightened, eyes wide. The sales associate stiffened, her smile faltering. Even Dorian's attention flicked toward her, his expression sharpening with curiosity. "Thank you, Miss Torres," the cashier said reverently as he returned the titanium card, carefully placing her purchase in a glossy bag adorned with a white camellia. Lena held his gaze for a moment, then deliberately let her eyes meet Dorian's across the boutique. Just for a heartbeat. His smirk faltered. He didn't know her face, but he recognized power when he saw it. She turned and left, her heels tapping against the polished floor. Outside, the rain had stopped. The Mercedes waited, door open. She slipped inside, her hands trembling, the Chanel bag on her lap like proof of an impossible dream. She pulled the phone from her pocket, opened the encrypted app, and typed quickly. "Vivian Hale is with her accomplice Dorian. They are not siblings. They plan to siphon Alexander Ward's fortune through a fake children's art foundation. Overheard them discussing Zurich and liquidation. It is a con, larger than infidelity." The message sent. A minute later, the reply appeared. "Excellent. You were right. This is the larger problem. Their endgame is my Monet. Sunrise over Bethuel. They want me to donate it for her foundation. Value, 80 million. This is no affair. It is the heist of the century." Lena's blood ran cold. She leaned back against the seat, the city lights sliding past. Her life had shifted in one reckless night. And now she was no longer a waitress. She was the only person standing between Alexander Ward and a theft hidden behind the mask of love. The Mercedes carried Lena Torres back uptown through the velvet dark of Manhattan. She pressed her forehead to the cool glass, trying to absorb what she had just heard. A Monet, sunrise over Bethuel, worth nearly $90 million. Vivian Hale and Dorian weren't merely lovers running a scam. They were predators staging an art heist hidden inside a fairy tale romance. Her phone chimed again. Another message from Alexander Ward. "Vivian Hale is a false identity. Too clean, no past. People like her always leave footprints. I need you to find them. Hire anyone you need. Use the card. Uncover who she really is. Report everything." Lena stared at the words. Hire anyone. Hackers, investigators, she had no experience with that world. She was an art history student, not a spy. Yet the black card resting in her bag said otherwise. Unlimited resources, no limits, no excuses. She had been handed the sword. Now she had to learn to wield it. Her apartment looked different when she returned. The peeling paint and flickering bulb hadn't changed, but the air hummed with purpose. She spread her laptop open, cleared space on her table, and began. She approached the problem the way she had once analyzed paintings, searching for provenance, for history hidden in brushstrokes. She began with the name, Vivian Hale. She scoured genealogy databases, press archives, social registries. Nothing. Too clean. Too polished. It was a mask. Hours bled into dawn. She scribbled notes across sheets of paper, arrows, timelines, fragments. She looked for cracks in the portrait Vivian had painted of herself. Somewhere, behind the emerald gowns and diamond smiles, the truth waited. By the third day, Lena admitted she needed help. She remembered the line in Alexander's message, "Hire anyone you need." Her hands shook as she sent an encrypted email to a boutique firm of white-hat hackers she found through obscure referrals. The reply came within hours, "We charge $50,000 up front." Her finger hovered over the card number. She pressed enter. Payment successful. She stared at the confirmation, dizzy. In less than a week, she had gone from counting nickels for rent to authorizing payments larger than her childhood home's value. Then came the silence. 3 long days where the only sounds were the hum of her fridge and the rain against the window. Lena filled the hours with preparation. She bought tailored clothing for the first time in her life, a suit from the row, shoes that gleamed, silk blouses that shifted like water. Each purchase was armor, transforming her reflection from a ghost into a player. On the 4th day, the hackers delivered. An email arrived with a single attachment, a grainy photograph clipped from a Geneva newspaper dated 2018. The headline read, "Gallery Du Bois shutters after tragic loss." The article described the sudden death of respected gallery owner Jean-Pierre Du Bois. His daughter, Cécile, inherited the business. Within 6 months the gallery collapsed, assets stripped, debts unpaid. Cécile and her partner, Marco Bianca, vanished. Lena's eyes locked on the photo. There she was. Vivian Hale, younger, her smile less polished but unmistakable. Only her name was different, Cécile Du Bois. At her side stood Dorian, then called Marco Bianca, his arm draped around her waist, his smirk as predatory as ever. Her breath caught. They had done this before. Used grief, used trust, hollowed out a legacy and walked away richer. She sent the evidence through the encrypted app, her fingers tight against the keys. Found them. Geneva, 2018. Vivian is Cécile Du Bois. Dorian is Marco Bianca. They bankrupted her father's gallery after his death. This is their pattern. The reply was instant. My God. Jean-Pierre was my friend. He spoke of his daughter often. To know she used his death as cover, it is unforgivable. The gala is in 3 days. She believes it will be her coronation, when I announce the Monet's donation. Instead, it will be her unmasking. You've given me the ammunition. Meet me tomorrow, 10 a.m., at my office. Lena sat back, the weight of the revelation pressing against her chest. 3 days. 3 days until Cécile Du Bois, Vivian Hale, was exposed in front of New York's most powerful. She rose and walked to the cracked mirror above her sink. The face staring back was hers, yet different. Sharper. Stronger. No longer a waitress afraid of silence. No longer a ghost. For the first time, she believed she belonged in the game. The following morning, Lena Torres stood in the marble lobby of Ward Capital. Sunlight slanted through towering windows, spilling across steel and glass like liquid gold. Men in tailored suits passed briskly, women in heels clicked across the polished floor. Lena adjusted the cuffs of her new navy suit, the fabric still foreign against her skin. Every detail of her appearance had been chosen with care. She no longer looked like a waitress who cleared plates in silence. She looked like someone who belonged. An assistant led her to the penthouse level. The elevator rose without a sound, stopping at a floor where the walls gleamed with modern art and the air smelled faintly of cedar and leather. Double doors opened into Alexander Ward's office. He stood waiting, tall, composed, every movement economical. Gone was the weary man she had seen at Aurelia. His silver hair gleamed under the light, his gaze steady with resolve. Behind him, floor-to-ceiling windows framed the sprawl of New York, a kingdom beneath his command. Miss Torres, he said, stepping forward, offering his hand. His grip was firm, his voice tinged with something Lena had never heard before, respect. It is a profound pleasure to finally meet you properly. You've done what my entire team of security specialists could not. You saw the truth. He gestured toward a screen mounted on the wall. The grainy photograph Lena had uncovered filled the display, Vivian Hale revealed as Cécile Dubois, Dorian as Mark Obienka. Alexander's jaw tightened as he studied it. I was blind, he admitted. Loneliness makes fools of men, no matter their wealth. But thanks to you, the blindfold is gone. Lena hesitated. What happens now? His eyes sharpened, the glint of a strategist prepared for war. The gala at the Frick Collection. 3 days from now. Cécile believes it will be her moment of triumph. She expects me to announce the donation of my Monet for her foundation. Instead, I will announce the truth. 300 of New York's most powerful will watch her world collapse. He turned back to her, his expression unreadable. And you, Miss Torres, you will be my guest of honor. You deserve to see this conclusion. Her chest tightened. Guest of honor? But I. You risked everything when you had nothing to gain, Alexander interrupted, his tone decisive. That makes you extraordinary. And you've proven you can stand in rooms meant to intimidate. The black card may have opened the doors, but it is your integrity that keeps them open. The words sank deep. Lena nodded slowly, still half disbelieving. What if she suspects something? She won't, Alexander replied. Cécile is too certain of her own performance. That is her weakness. She believes she's won. And that belief will blind her until the curtain falls. For the rest of the morning, they plotted in meticulous detail. Alexander outlined the program for the gala, his speech, the unveiling of the photograph, the signals for his security team. Lena listened, asked questions, filled a notebook with careful notes. For the first time, she was part of something larger than survival. She was part of justice. When she left Ward Capital that afternoon, the city looked different. The streets bustled as always, cabs honked, steam curled from subway grates. But beneath it all, Lena sensed an undercurrent. A stage was being built. And in 3 days, the trap would spring. The night of the gala arrived like a storm held at bay. The Frick Collection glowed with chandeliers, the grand halls alive with gowns and tuxedos. Cameras flashed outside as black cars rolled up the drive. Inside, servers moved with silver trays, their steps ghostlike across marble floors. Lena stood near the entrance, transformed beyond recognition. A midnight blue gown clung elegantly to her frame, diamonds glittering at her throat on loan from Alexander's private jeweler. Her hair swept up, her eyes lined with a confidence she had never known. She wasn't a server tonight. She wasn't invisible. She was a woman seen. She spotted them immediately. Cécile, Vivian, in crimson silk, her beauty radiant beneath the golden light. She laughed, glowing, basking in the admiration of New York's elite. At her side, Dorian hovered like a shadow, smug and watchful. Their eyes scanned the room as if it already belonged to them. Then Cécile saw Lena. For a heartbeat, her smile faltered. Confusion rippled across her face before she masked it with a brittle laugh. She leaned close to Alexander, whispering something into his ear. He only smiled, calm and unfazed. Lena felt a thrill of anticipation ripple through her chest. The stage was set. Soon, Cécile Dubois would no longer be the actress in control. She would be the exposed liar in the spotlight. And Lena would be there to watch the mask shatter. The grand hall of the Frick Collection hushed as Alexander Ward ascended the podium. Every chandelier seemed to dim beneath the gravity of his presence. The crowd, bankers, collectors, politicians, and curators, fell silent, their anticipation heavy in the air. Lena Torres sat at the front table, a seat she never imagined occupying, the midnight blue of her gown catching glints of gold from the lights. At the same table, Cécile Dubois, still dressed in her Vivian Hale disguise, smiled radiantly. Her crimson gown shimmered like fire. Dorian lingered nearby, his smirk sharp with confidence. Cécile leaned into Alexander's gaze, the picture of a devoted fiancé. To everyone watching, she looked triumphant, moments away from securing both her fortune and her reputation. Alexander's voice carried steady across the hall. Tonight, he began, is about legacy. About what we choose to leave behind, and how we protect beauty from those who would corrupt it. His words were smooth, practiced, the perfect cadence of a philanthropist addressing his peers. Applause rippled gently across the room. Cécile's smile widened. She tilted her chin proudly, certain this was the prelude to her victory. Alexander continued, many of you know I have considered donating a painting from my private collection. A Monet. Sunrise over Bethuel. For years, I hesitated. But someone reminded me that trust, true trust, is the most valuable currency we have. And that reminder came from a woman of remarkable integrity. Gasps rippled across the tables. Lena's chest tightened. Eyes turned toward her, curious, speculative. Cécile stiffened, her smile faltering. Alexander paused, then his voice deepened. But before I announce any donation, I must honor a friend who is no longer with us. Jean-Pierre Dubois, a man of vision, once ran a gallery in Geneva. He died suddenly, leaving his life's work to his daughter. At the mention of the name, Lena saw Cécile's eyes widen. Her hand clenched around the stem of her wine glass. Alexander pressed on, his gaze sweeping across the hall. Tragically, that gallery collapsed. Its assets vanished. Its legacy destroyed. And his daughter, along with her partner, disappeared. For years, I wondered what became of them. The lights dimmed. A click echoed. The massive screen behind him flickered to life. A grainy photograph appeared, Staff of Gallery Dubois, 2018. In the back row, Cécile stood younger but unmistakable, her arm wrapped by Marco Bianca, the man now known as Dorian. The silence that followed was deafening. Alexander's voice cut through like steel. They did not vanish. They merely changed their names. Cécile Dubois and Marco Bianca are here tonight, among us, wearing masks. He turned deliberately, his gaze falling on the crimson figure at the table. Isn't that right, Cécile? A collective gasp surged through the hall. Every eye turned. Every whisper rose. Cécile froze in her chair, her face drained of color. The mask of Vivian Hale cracked before hundreds of witnesses. No, she whispered, her voice shaking. This is absurd, lies. But the photo glared down, undeniable. Marco, Dorian, bolted, shoving back his chair. He moved for the exit, but Alexander's security team intercepted him, two men in dark suits appearing from the crowd like shadows. Gasps turned to murmurs, then sharp clicks of phones recording the collapse of the Evening Star. Cécile rose shakily, her hands trembling, the brittle edges of her composure splintering. Alexander, please, darling, you know me, you know this isn't true. Her voice cracked under the weight of desperation. Alexander's gaze was cold. I know exactly who you are. The room erupted in whispers. Cécile's eyes darted wildly, seeking an escape. There was none. The walls of reputation, carefully built brick by brick, were now rubble at her feet. She stumbled back, knocking over her chair. The eyes of New York's elite pierced her from every side, judgment heavy as iron. She fled into the crowd, her crimson gown swallowed by a sea of dark suits and glittering gowns. The moment stretched, electric and unforgettable. Alexander remained steady at the podium, his face carved in stone, his authority unshaken. And Lena sat frozen, her pulse pounding in her ears. She had watched a woman's empire collapse in a single stroke. What had begun with a glance at a phone screen in a glittering restaurant had ended here, beneath the unforgiving light of truth. Alexander lowered his voice, his final words cutting like a verdict. Integrity will always reveal the truth. Tonight, we have seen it. Applause broke, hesitant at first, then growing, rising like a tide. The fall of Cecile Dubois was complete. And Lena Torres, once invisible, had witnessed every moment of it. The gala at the Frick had dissolved into chaos, whispers swirling like storm winds long after Cecile Dubois fled into the night. Cameras flashed, voices hissed, and reputations twisted in the aftermath. By the time Lena Torres slipped into the courtyard for air, the marble walls no longer felt suffocating. Instead, they seemed like monuments to the truth finally set free. She found Alexander Ward waiting beneath the shadows of a stone archway. His tuxedo jacket hung open, his expression weary but resolute. The city lights flickered beyond the iron gates, distant and indifferent. Yet here, in this quiet space, everything felt personal. "It's over," he said simply, his silver hair catching the glow of the lanterns. Lena folded her arms across her chest. "It is." Her voice was soft, steady, though inside her pulse still echoed with the night's intensity. Alexander studied her with the weight of gratitude. "You did more than expose Cecile. You saved me from more than financial ruin. You reminded me that courage still exists in unexpected places." Lena shook her head slightly. "I just told the truth. It nearly destroyed me. It also gave me back my life," he countered. His eyes softened, the steel in them warming. "And I don't intend to let that go unrecognized." He reached into his pocket and withdrew a thick envelope. Inside lay formal documents embossed with the Ward capital seal. "I've decided to establish something new, the Langley Art Integrity Foundation. Its purpose will be to protect art, culture, and legacy from predators like Cecile and Marco. I don't want to do it alone." Her breath caught. "What does that have to do with me?" "Everything," Alexander replied. He stepped closer, his voice low, resolute. "I want you to lead it. Director. Office on the floor below mine. You have the eyes of an observer, the courage of a fighter, and the integrity of someone who won't be swayed. You belong in this world, Lena, not as a servant in the shadows, but as a guardian of its beauty." Lena stared at him, her heart hammering. Just weeks ago, she had been invisible. A waitress scrubbing tables, drowning in debt, praying the rent wouldn't come due before her paycheck arrived. Now she was being asked to step into a role she had never dreamed possible. Her gaze drifted to the gardens beyond the courtyard, where sculptures stood timeless under the night sky. Marble figures carved centuries ago, still here, still enduring. Protecting them, defending their truth, felt suddenly like a calling. She looked back at Alexander, her lips curving into a slow, confident smile. "I accept." Relief flickered across his features, followed by pride. "Then welcome to the beginning of something extraordinary." The rest of the evening blurred into fragments, guests departing in murmurs, reporters buzzing with scandal, security men escorting Cecile's accomplice into the shadows of law enforcement. But Lena's focus remained fixed on what had just unfolded. Later, in the back of the waiting Mercedes, she touched the black card resting in her clutch. Its weight no longer felt like an alien burden. It felt like a tool, a key, a symbol of trust earned. Her reflection in the car window revealed the same dark eyes, the same features. Yet behind them now burned something new. No longer fear. No longer desperation. Determination. She thought of the night at Aurelia when she had chosen courage over silence. How it had cost her everything. And how, in the end, it had given her more than she could have imagined. As the car pulled away from the Frick, New York glittered in the distance, endless and alive. For the first time, Lena didn't feel like a ghost moving unseen through the city. She felt like she belonged on its stage. The waitress who dared to speak had become something else entirely. And her story was only just beginning. Every choice we make, no matter how small, can change the course of our lives. Lena Torres chose truth over silence, even when it cost her everything. In the end, her courage revealed deception, protected something priceless, and gave her a new destiny. This story reminds us that integrity, honesty, and bravery are treasures far greater than wealth. This is a fictional story, written to feel realistic so that its message can be taken to heart. May we all be reminded that doing the right thing is never wasted. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a comment, hit the like button, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next story. Your support means the world, and every interaction helps us keep creating more inspiring tales for you.